start getting into how it affects you and what you guys can do about it. So, do you have the time?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, what's happening in the world right now is that there have been over 100,000 new chemicals that have been introduced to the atmosphere and to our environment. Manufacturing processes, industrial processes, companies, corporations, and our natural detox pathways haven't had a chance to evolve to this onslaught. So we do have the natural ability to detoxify, but because of the intensity of this new chemicals and new metals and all this new stuff, we just don't have the chance to catch up. So right now, there's exponential growth of depression, schizophrenia, autism, anxiety, diabetes, all of this stuff, many of which never existed, 80 years ago. We didn't even have a name for it, and now there are these worldwide epidemics. This is a graph of flame retardants in breast milk, okay, in women's breast milk. And it's on an exponential curve right now. We're up to like 2,000 here, so it's even worse now. But those are flame retardants in women's breast milk. I mean, there's no way that could be safe or copacetic. It's an absolute nightmare to have a baby take in flame retardants with the milk. And autism is on a similar scale, actually. Now, there's a lot of controversy in the medical world as far as autism, so I'm not going to claim to be an expert. But what is happening is that autism is on an exponential curve as well. And basically, at some point around 2025, we may hit a vertical line. And all the scientists, when you hit a vertical line in exponential epidemic, it's almost too late at that point. So I'm not a doomsdayer, and I'm not saying we're all fucked, but autism is a massive, massive problem, and it's getting exponentially worse. And much scientific research shows that it has to do with heavy metal poisoning and parasites from children. So the problem with Western medicine and how we're treating illness right now is that we are taught that it's genetic, right? We're taught it's genetic and that you'll be climbing uphill for the rest of your life and you have to take a pill to reverse the genetic predisposition. And we're also given like lifelong boxes, lifelong prisons of saying, okay, you have this. Right now in conventional medicine, if you have severe depression, you're pretty much put in a box where it's like you probably will have to be on these for the rest of your life. And that's what's happening right now in Western medicine. Obviously, there are people who have evolved and they're not doing just that, but that's the conventional Western route of psychiatry. So back in the day, like a couple hundred years ago, Chinese medicine practitioners, they would charge you only, you would pay them as you were healthy. And as soon as you got sick, you stopped paying them until they helped you get better again, which is the reverse paradigm of what we have today. Today we have nothing, and then you get deathly ill, and then you basically send your life savings, give your life savings to a doctor and run on a hamster wheel. So, okay. Basically, what's happening on a physical level, the colon, this is supposed to be, this giant tube of life force, and our second brain is basically turning into, has turned into a cesspool for most people. Okay, most people, there's a Dr. Harvey Kellogg who had done 20,000 colon surgeries on people in the United States near Michigan, and he found that every single person he did surgery on had between 5 and 15 pounds of old, rotting fecal matter in their intestines because of the way we eat, the crappy foods, crappy food combinations. We're super stressed out. We're not chewing our food thoroughly. We're overeating, and it's just this perpetual system that we have in place. And basically, the impacted fecal matter and toxins and all this old stuff, it's not just physical, it's energetic, old stuff that we hold on to. It prevents high frequency life. It prevents you from really living your true soul potential. It's just totally dumbing you down, dumbing us down, and just preventing true biological harmony. And I saw it for myself throughout my 3 years of cleansing. I mean, I didn't eat for 2 weeks, and I was going to the bathroom every single day, twice a day. I mean, there's no scientific way to disprove what I saw in my own body. So taking things one step further, because that's pretty, I knew that to be true in my 3 years, but I still couldn't figure out the answer to my illness, is that there's another level beyond that, beyond just the backup. That there's parasites, heavy metals, plastics, flame retardants, pesticides, fertilizers, insecticides, all deep inside the organs and tissues. And this is coming from our foods. Actually, I have a picture of it. This is coming from, this is literally taken at my friend's house. I opened his cabinet after my 3.5-year journey, 4-year journey at this point. Actually, it may even be 5. And I just oh my God, every single thing in here is poisonous. It's toxic. It's not actually contributing to your health at all. And this is pretty standard what we see in people's homes, Every single thing here you see here has been created in a lab to maximize profits, and honestly, probably less than 1% or 5% of the ingredients of this are actually natural herbal ingredients, the way we are meant to absorb on our skin as an animal of the earth, right? This is all just basically synthetic garbage, and this is compounded over years and years and years with food, with trauma, with emotional shit, and all the different all the different angles that we're being sort of bombarded in our lives by the media, by teachers, by parents to live a certain way. All of this combined has a cumulative effect. It's not just the toxins, right? It's also traumas. It's also people not loving themselves, not respecting themselves, boundary issues. It's a huge, huge issue. But the point is that it just simply cannot be healthy to be putting massive amounts of synthetic chemicals on our skin, which get directly absorbed into our blood-brain barrier. And similarly, mercury fillings, all these different inorganic foods that have pesticides and insecticides sprayed on them. I heard you talking about it earlier. Yeah, this is basically an epidemic. I mean, we're not meant to be taking in that amount of toxins, and we're also not meant to be maximizing profits. We're meant to be maximizing well-being and happiness. But in this shortcut of maximizing profits, we fuck our well-being up as a collective. So basically, Tesla, one of the most amazing, brilliant human beings of all time, he said, if you wish to understand...
All of you guys know who Tesla is? Not the car factory.
Yeah,
so,
not the car, correct, yeah.
So Tesla, in the early, actually Catherine would probably be better to explain it as a history specialist, but Tesla invented electricity as we know it today, because we used to have a direct electricity and
DC.
DC. Direct. No, Tesla invented the alternate electricity.
Yes, he invented AC.
Yeah. So Tesla invented AC, which basically allowed us today to use computers and everything else. And before with direct electricity, it was much more expensive and not as scalable. And Tesla basically changed all of that. So he's one of the most...
Yeah. And he was also, you know, if you do any research on him and his life, he was also connected to something very unique. He was... you know, I don't know what science would call it, but many people will call it divinely guided. He was connected to some other frequency where he used to communicate with other beings, other realms, and maybe he was crazy, right? I don't know where you guys stand as far as like, you know, what else is out there aside from our body and what we can see and feel, but to put things into perspective, we can only see 0.1% of the light spectrum. We can only hear 0.05% of sound spectrum. So it would make more sense to believe that there could be more things out there than just us and what we see and what we hear. But I won't get too much into that. But basically, one of the most brilliant people of all time, he said, if you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. And it's completely true. As you go deeper down the rabbit hole, particularly with mental illness and spirituality, you realize that everything is on those three levels. And with all of the toxins and the fecal matter and all this shit that we're holding on to, literally shit, We're tuned into the low vibrational stuff. We're tuned in where it's very hard to experience something greater than ourselves when we're totally bombarded and in a low vibration. So, in my opinion, in my experience of life, that these toxins prevent us from experiencing the wonder and awe of life the way we had experienced it as a child. Yeah, I wrote Booby Prize here because, you know, especially in San Francisco, in this area in New York City where I was living before this, we're taught and we believe that massive amounts of money, material goods, and all of this, and the good health insurance and the good vacations, that stuff is like the real grand prize of life. And what I realized in my search for life is that it's actually feeling love inside of your body is the first place prize. To me, all that stuff is nice and it adds to life, but it feels like the second place prize. The first place is to have your health, to have love for yourself, have respect, and to get along with your thoughts, get along with your being. That's something that nobody can take away from you, and have true peace inside one's body. That's the real gold grand prize of life that I am now chasing, and instead of before where I was chasing money and women and cars and all that stuff. So
what can we eat?
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Summer in the hills, those hazy days I do remember. We were running still, had the whole world at our feet, watching seasons change.